Thank you to PFLAG and the San Diego Human Dignity Foundation for putting on this event, for supporting our youth, and for making the terrible mistake of giving me a microphone. Again, my name is Fernando Lopez, Jr. I'm a femme, gay, Latino, Jewish, first-generation U.S. citizen, and a former homeless youth. So does anyone know where El Centro is? Like just about everyone? I am so sorry. But not as sorry as I am for myself, because I had to live there as a young queerling. So me and Cher from El Centro, so you know it's like fabulous and like totally fine, right? But what I will say is the Imperial County is the most anti-gay county in the state of California, as acknowledged by the votes in the Prop 8 campaign. Growing up there, I can remember as early as the 3rd grade being called a fairy, a fruit, a fudge packer, and a faggot, and basically every F word other than my own name. And I remember what it felt like to be weighed down by a backpack full of books. Also, kids' books are these things with paper and pages, and they're big and they're heavy. But being weighed down by those books and that backpack and the words of my peers, and just hoping that I could survive the journey from one classroom to the next, or heaven forbid, the long walk home. And for myself and so many of us sitting in this room, we know what that felt like as queer youth and individuals, now adults, striving to support these young people. And that we all lived through these derogatory, disgusting, and discriminatory behaviors that came not only from our friends, but from the faculty, our faith, and our very own families. And it is these antiquated and recalcitrant beliefs that somehow, because of who you are or who you love or how you express your gender, that your very existence was a moral failure. And it is this ingrained fallacy that has given all too many parents and schools permission to discard their children like garbage on the streets, meaning that 40% of homeless youth are LGBT identified. And it is these long-lasting effects of childhood oppression and systemic social isolation that leads to higher risks of mental illness, suicide, employment barriers, and economic disparities, higher rates of incarceration, and the path from the school to prison pipeline. And all of these issues compounded at the intersection of race and gender and class, and all of these issues, it becomes clear that they are LGBT issues and they are deserving of our attention. Sure. I still remember the voice of my own father as the recently murdered Matthew Shepard's face was lit across my television screen, a face that looked all too much like my own. And as my father turned to me, he said, "Mira, mijo, another good faggot." Because the only good faggot is a dead faggot. And now I don't know where I found like the courage or the bravery or the stupidity, but I stood up, my father was sitting down, and I was looking him in the eye, because that's how short I am. And I said, "You know what, Dad? It's not that hard to get a gun in this town. In fact, I think your brother owns one. I will walk down the street, I will pick it up, I will bring it back here, I will even place it to my own head, and all you have to do is pull the trigger, and there will be one more good faggot in this world." And that's how I came out to my dad. Flair for the dramatic. Now, what followed was years of homelessness. But what stayed with me was a commitment to my own education. But let me tell you something. Registering for college when you don't have a roof over your head or an address to send anything to, or your parents won't sign the paperwork that allows you to get financial aid because they make too much money but refuse to support you. Going to college was no easy task, one that I almost did not make it through. Now, we've come a long way since the 20 years since my high school experience, and yes, I said 20 years. This is makeup and moisturizer and good lighting. But we've come a long way since 1978, when our state organized to defeat the Briggs Initiative, as teachers were potentially going to be excluded from our school system because we were called predators and perverts. But the Briggs Initiative was not the first attack on our community. And Matthew Shepard was not the first person to be killed because of their sexual orientation or gender identity. And in 2010, when nationally we saw a rash of suicides publicized across the media, or last year in San Diego, when so many young lives were lost, those two were not the first. But the outstanding difference in each case was that our community was ready to answer the call. And the broader community of our allies was primed to have a rational conversation about our shared humanity, and we took action. And look at the amount of progress that we have made in this region. Since 2010, a coalition of organizations and individuals with our own school district formed the Safe Schools Task Force, now referred to as the LGBTQ+ Community Advisory Committee, because apparently we like adding letters and words to things. But while passing policy proved much easier than its implementation, we can all take great pride in knowing that all we have accomplished together. And thanks to the Center and PFLAG and GLSEN and San Diego Pride, who sounded the alarm and shone a spotlight on the district and their hesitance to act. But thanks again to these organizations and to Dolores Jacobs and Terry Verono and Colin Pierce and Stephen Whitburn, who lent their voice to that cause. And thank you to the leadership of School Board Trustee Kevin Beiser and the countless hours put in by Dr. Vernon Moore and the other San Diego Unified School District staff and board and superintendent. I am happy to report that our coalition asked for 7 specific things of our district. And because of that action and our united efforts, this is where we stand. 1, a climate survey about what life is like for LGBT youth has now been taken by over 10,000 students in our district. 2, these results will soon be used to create benchmarks for successful growth in how we address these issues moving forward within our district. 3, online real-time bullying reporting has been implemented at every single school in our district. And over 200 reports have come in so far. Now, that's not just something that helps LGBTQ youth. That helps all youth have more direct access to justice and safety. And yes, that deserves a round of applause. Four, LGBT policies have been made into a simple, single sheet that every single faculty member must sign off on and acknowledge as part of their responsibility for our youth. 5, we can clap at 7. 5, we asked for 1 and we got 2 full-time dedicated staff who will be working 100% of their time on LGBT education policy and the implementation of the success of our LGBTQ youth. 6, mandatory LGBT cultural competency training for all 17,000 faculty across the district, and that will be completed by the end of 2017. And 7, at the start of the coming school year, with efforts led by Dr. Wendy Rank Burr and with the assistance of the San Diego Lambda Archives and We Are Fair organization, school grades 2, 4, 5, 8, and 11 will have FAIR Act compliant, Common Core compliant, LGBT inclusive history. With the rest of the grades being filled in by the following school year. And what all of this means is that every single year, 130,000 young people will live in a culture and a climate that doesn't just tolerate their identity, but embraces, inspires, and empowers LGBTQ youth to thrive. Let's give all of that effort a round of applause. Even these are just some of the amazing efforts put forward in our community. From the North County Resource Center and the local LGBT community center and their life-saving youth programs, to the Lifeline that is the Trevor Project, to the Connection to Family and Parents that is put on by PFLAG, to the Trans Youth Empowerment Project, to our local Job Corps, which this year implemented full LGBT cultural competency training for all of their faculty and their students, to our local universities, UCSD, SDSU, USD, and our community college districts, who are creating pioneering programs and spaces for queer youth, to the Youth Empowerment Summit, who is creating tools and connecting these young people to community and allowing them to thrive, to our very own San Diego Pride, who this year will celebrate 24 years because we were the first Pride in the nation to create spaces for queer youth, queer children, and families at our Pride event. And last year, for the first time, we created another program you may have heard of, the Pride Youth Marching Band, where 67 kids from around the region participated to show off their talents and find a safe space for their identity. And this year, over 200 youth from Riverside and Orange County and Imperial County, including San Diego County, have signed up to be a part of this year's event. And how timely is this event today? Did y'all hear what happened today? Yeah? Obama. Through the Department of Education and Justice, sent out a note that went to all schools giving guidelines that all transgender students must have a supportive and non-discriminatory school environment. Think about that. Our own president is standing up for trans youth. Now let's look at the flip side of that. The flip side, just this week, a school board in North Carolina voted to allow youth to bring pepper spray to school, to pepper spray trans youth in schools. This should highlight the very real, important, and necessary work ahead when it comes to voting. Our responsibility to show up to the polls and to encourage our community to do the same. Every vote on every ticket matters, from school board to president. You better believe that we are counting on you to show up to the polls. And now to our youth who are scholars and the rest of the kids in the room. You may hear sometimes that you kids today have it so easy. And you know what? In some ways, you do. And I'm really glad about that. I'm really, really proud about that. Because every single person in this room and every single thing that you've heard about and the people who have not even been named worked and struggled so that way you and the next generation could have an easier life. But here's the thing. We are now giving you the charge and the responsibility to take those next steps and be good stewards of love and life and push forward for social justice for all. If you are one of today's scholars, please stand and stay standing and be recognized. Stay standing. Keep standing. I'm going to make you do another thing. See, they gave me a microphone. It's all going downhill. So if you are a parent, a friend, or a faculty member who is here supporting one of these youth directly, please stand with them. Please take a stand. And please, stay standing for one more second. I'm almost done, I promise. Because I want to leave you with this one thing. Now, unfortunately, the person I wanted to call out isn't here today. But I do know what it's like to be a homeless kid on the street of Hillcrest with nowhere to turn. But just look at the love and support that you have around you at this moment. if it was not for the kindness of a complete stranger, I would not be standing here. And so if a homeless kid from a small anti-gay town can come to the big city to be saved from suicide by a complete stranger who asked one simple question, what's wrong and what can I do to help? And I can still live to stand on this stage, then with love, action, and pride, and the support you have here today, then all things are possible. So thank you, and go forth and conquer.